Bilişim Zirvesi 2012 etkinliğindeyiz. Yanımızdaki konuğumuz siber güvenlik uzmanı Ralph Langner. Ralph Langner, son zamanlarda ortaya çıkan Stuxnet ve benzeri tehditlerin arkasında büyük devletlerin finansal desteği ve bilgi birikimi desteği olabileceğini ilk dillendiren isimlerden. Dolayısıyla bizimle paylaşacağı bilgiler gerçekten çok önemli. Bugün kendisi Bilişim Zirvesi kapsamında bir sunum gerçekleştirecek. Sunumdan önce kendisiyle bu sunum ve bu yeni nesil tehditler konusundaki düşünceleri hakkında bilgi paylaşmak için buradayız. Thank you very much for coming here first. And my first question is, what's your main topic today? Which subjects will you cover in your speech?
So I'm obviously going to talk about cyber warfare, and the idea that I want to promote is that what we have seen with the Stuxnet attack, or what is known as in the code name Operation Olympic Games, was not a singular event. So many people are worried about will we see something like that again? I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to say yes, we will, but it probably will look different from Stuxnet because the emphasis in the case of Stuxnet was on disguising the whole attack. I don't think that we are going to see a very exact copy of that code and of that attack pattern, but we will probably see similar attacks against critical infrastructure, which is what we call cyber physical attacks. So a cyber attack causes physical damage, and this is what I'm going to talk about today.
So you say that the threats like the Stuxnet is just a glimpse that we are going to see in the future, right?
Well, it certainly was the first time in history, and I believe that it would be completely naive to assume that this would go away. It would just be like in 1954 we saw the first atomic bomb explode, and obviously nobody really thought that that would be it would just vanish. Luckily, we didn't see any other nuclear explosions. I mean, except for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But other than that, nuclear hasn't been used on the battlefield. But as everybody knows, nation states build up huge nuclear arsenals of nuclear weapons. And this is what already can be seen right now in respect to cyber weapons. So sometimes it has been said that Stuxnet would be a wake-up call. That's only true in one aspect. That wake-up call was heard by the military people around the world. It wasn't heard by civil defenders, by the people who actually work in IT security. But the military domain has certainly realized that there is some potential for offensive operations in cyberspace, and this is an ongoing development that we are seeing around the globe.
Thank you. Cybersecurity companies complain that it was always very hard to counter the evolving cyber threats in time. And now they say that they are becoming even weaker to compete because the mass resources of the governments that put behind those events, those cyber espionage events, making their life even harder. What's your comment about that? Is the civilian defense against the cyber threats is going to be harder and harder after this time?
I don't really think so. I think you should consider that the big players in the IT security industry, like the antivirus companies, have a business model which isn't suited to counter those new threats. So the business model of the AV industry is focused on a mass market where it is important to protect millions of customers against known malware. And what we have seen over the last couple of years is that the big threat from worms is actually not the big issue any longer. It's custom-made malware that targets individual corporations or even governments or individual scientists. And this is certainly an attack vector that it's just not addressed by the technology of the AV industry, and also not by the business model. But on the other hand, we certainly do see a shift. So we see a new business starting up in the IT security sector, which focus almost completely on that new threat. So this is just going to happen right now, but probably the big names that everybody is aware of in the AV industry are not the major players in that new niche that we're seeing.
There are some kind of diseases named as the orphan diseases in the world because they are affecting the spatial region, they are affecting only a couple of people, and because of that the drug companies are not making any cure for that because they don't see it's profitable. Do you think that the threats like this, for example, targeting the very specific firm or specific nation is going to be left orphanage with antivirus or security companies because they are affecting the very little scale and it's not going to be profitable?
Certainly. So for a big antivirus company, it doesn't make a lot of sense to actually address those threats. But then you have to see again that new business are starting up or developing who specifically focus on those new threats. But those are the businesses who usually don't make a lot of noise in public. So they just stay under the radar. And if you look at the large corporations or governments, they all have contracts with such smaller companies who focus on individual targeted attacks. But as I said, you don't see that in the news.
Since now we saw that the security solutions has been provided as general solutions for millions or for billions of the people, so are we going to start to see that some companies are going to make tailored spatial security solutions for your company?
Absolutely. So just look at my own company. I mean, we are doing cybersecurity for industrial corporations like the power sector, like the energy sector, but we are not selling products because for specific threats there is no security products that you would simply need to deploy and configure and you're secure. For example, there is no intrusion prevention system for a power plant. That just doesn't exist, and that's not possible from a technology point of view. But certainly you can and should do something about that threat, and this is what companies like my own do.
Thank you. And do you think that the cybersecurity companies may be guided by the government agencies for not to detect the targeted threats intentionally? What may be the consequences?
I think that this is a topic that will be discussed in the future and probably needs to be discussed, because what we are seeing is, if I just think about my own case, that security experts can just all of a sudden be in the middle of a covert operation that involves very high stakes operations in the Middle East, for example. We have seen that already with my own case. Certainly I can say nobody prepared me to do that, and there is a certain risk involved for everybody in such a scenario. So you could say for the big picture that we will need more governance in respect to how to really address these new threats and how to prevent something from happening. Just to give you another example, 2 years ago my own company created software tool that would allow you as an asset owner to prevent something like Stuxnet from hitting you. Shortly after we announced that product, I just decided not to sell it because let's say a week later it would have been in Iran. So I would have actually actively helped the Iranian government to pursue their nuclear program, which is not in my best interest. This was a business decision that I made personally. It's probably not a very good idea to rely, as a government, to rely on people like myself to make the right decisions. I mean, you could also say this was a little bit over my own head.
Thank you. And what can we do to protect protect ourselves from the threats that we don't know even exist?
Well, I believe that in the last year, most people, especially those in the IT industry, have gotten a very good idea that the threat universe is much bigger than it used to be. So most people have realized that once that nation states have entered the game, it completely changed. And once that we have seen large threats like Stuxnet or Flame or DoQ, that it's really a completely new game, and this is probably one of the biggest lessons that need to be learned. Don't live in the past, because if you think cybersecurity is still all about protecting phishing attacks or doing something against spam, you're just living in the past. The landscape has completely changed.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting conversation, I think, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks.